Now, folks, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce just announced that it is withdrawing its support of the Senate's $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. This is terrible news for Senator Chuck Schumer and the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, because now, without the support from the Chamber of Commerce, stimulus payments are now going to be withheld. This is bad news, everybody, and I believe that President Biden must do something about this as soon as possible. He can't let another day go by without sending out stimulus relief to the people. If you guys agree, then let's get this video to 1,000 likes. And be sure to keep watching because I'll be going over more stimulus check information that you have to know.
I just want to say a few words about some of what's going on. And as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, I want to say a few words about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that a number of us are fighting for. And I'd also like to make some brief comments about what Senator Manchin said earlier today. First, let us be clear. Poll after poll, including polls in West Virginia, show that what we are trying to do in this reconciliation bill is enormously popular among the American people. But it's not just the American people who support what we're trying to do. 48 out of 50 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus support the bill, and 210 members, about 96% of the House Democratic Caucus, support the bill. And by the way, the President of the United States supports the bill. And while we're at it, let me tell you who is vigorously opposed to this legislation, and I think it's important that the American people understand that, because this is the corruption of American politics. The pharmaceutical industry is currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying, on campaign contributions, on advertising to oppose this bill because they do not want to have us lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America. The health insurance industry is spending a huge amount of money because they do not want us to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. The fossil fuel industry, the coal companies and the oil companies, are spending millions of dollars despite the fact that the scientists are virtually unanimous in telling us that we must end our dependence on fossil fuel and move to energy efficiency and sustainable energy if we are going to save this planet. And it goes without saying that the billionaire class and the large corporations are spending a fortune in opposition to this bill because they love the idea that some of the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations in a given year do not pay a nickel in federal income tax. And they're fighting to preserve that absurdity. In other words, we are taking on some of the most powerful special interests in this country who will end up spending huge amounts of money in order to prevent us from doing what we should be doing, protecting the needs of working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor, and protecting this planet for future generations. Now, Senator Manchin, as I understand it, talked about today about not wanting to see our country become an entitlement society. Well, I am not exactly sure what he means by that. Does that mean that we end the $300 direct payments for working class parents, which have cut childhood poverty in this country as a result of the American Rescue Plan in half? Is protecting working families and cutting childhood poverty and entitlement? Does Senator Manchin think we should once again have one of the highest levels of childhood poverty of any major country on earth? At a time when millions of seniors in Vermont, in West Virginia, all across this country, have teeth in their mouths that are rotting, when they can't afford hearing aids in order to communicate with their grandchildren, And when they can't afford a pair of glasses in order to read a newspaper, does Senator Manchin really believe that seniors are not entitled to digest their food and that they're not entitled to hear and see properly? Is that really too much to ask in the richest country on earth, that elderly people have teeth in their mouth and can see and can hear? Does Senator Manchin not believe that we have to end the absurdity of the United States paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more for a particular drug than is paid in Canada or other countries around the world? Does Senator Manchin believe that we should be the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, and that working mothers should not be able to stay home?
So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, as I was saying, is withdrawing its support of the Senate-passed $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. That is just hours after Punch Bowl, after news reported that House Republicans are booting it from the strategy calls. The two bills, which are seen as top priorities in fulfilling Biden's agenda, have been long linked, and Nancy Pelosi has described them as a companion bill. This is the same prime reason House Republican leaders have been whipping against the bipartisan bill. But the story about the decision to cut the chamber from its strategy calls was largely seen as a formal rejection of the pro-business organization after months of fraying relations. Many Republicans also have criticized the chamber for endorsing some Democrats in recent years. But now Republicans don't want the nation to default on its debt, and they support more funding for roads and bridges. Yet they're fully prepared to oppose bills that would achieve both goals. Republicans in the House are growing more entrenched in their opposition to a bipartisan infrastructure package that was crafted by members of the Senate GOP. They warned that its passage would pave the way for Democrats' massive economic and social spending bill. So if the nation's borrowing limit isn't raised by then, Janet Yellen has warned the nation will default on the debt crisis for the first time in years. Republicans want to force Democrats to address the debt limit through reconciliation. McConnell said it months ago. He expected Democrats to take this burden on by themselves, by forcing Democrats to vote and raise the country's borrowing limit on their own through a complex budget process. Now, Democrats have so far refused to go to the reconciliation route, for the same reason that Republicans are pushing for it. Reconciliation is a complicated, time-consuming process. And so there is, however, another option that would not require GOP support. Democrats could raise the debt ceiling to the floor. They could bring this bill to the floor, and Republicans could just agree to it and not filibuster it. But that would take unanimous cooperation, and some Republicans have already rolled it out. Another sign that they are using a debt limit as a timestamp to derail the nation's Democratic agenda. Schumer teed up a vote on a bill to suspend a debt ceiling that is certain to fall amid GOP opposition, but Democrats have not yet outlined a plan B, although the New York Democrat warned that over the weekend and recess break is possible. Democrats need to act soon if they're going to use reconciliation.